It was around 9:30 p.m. when my dad finally fell asleep. I was sitting in the recliner beside his hospital bed, half awake, legs numb, still in the same clothes from the morning. The lights were dim, the machines hummed, and everything around me smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. I hadn't planned to stay this long, but his mild stroke had turned into 4 nights of waiting, checking charts, and forcing myself to be calm. My husband told me not to worry about the house. Said he had it handled. Rachel, my best friend, texted earlier that she stopped by, fed the cat, even left me some flowers in the kitchen. I remember thinking, thank God for them. I really believed that. Then my dad's phone buzzed. I had borrowed it earlier while mine was charging at the nurse's station. I picked it up out of habit, thinking it was one of my cousins or the nurse messaging from downstairs. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. It was a photo. No caption. Just an image. Rachel. On my couch. In my robe. I froze. Stared. Blinked. The robe was unmistakable, white with faded red tulips, loose at the sleeves. It was mine. I never loaned it. Not even to guests. It was personal, like a second skin. But there she was, lounging on the sofa in it, her bare legs curled under her, a glass of wine in her hand, her face half-turned like she wasn't posing, like someone had asked her to smile. I looked at the sender field. She hadn't sent it to me. She sent it to my dad. By accident. And unless my dad and Rachel had suddenly developed a secret friendship, the message was clearly meant for someone else. Someone whose number looked close to his. Someone like my husband. My body went still, and yet my pulse pounded in my ears. I looked at the image again, as if staring would change what I already knew. The background was even worse, his shoes near the coffee table. His jacket on the chair. My world rearranged without me in it. I didn't speak. I didn't move for nearly 10 minutes. My father slept beside me, the machines blinking steady. I sat in the hospital silence, holding a phone that had accidentally told the truth. I could have deleted the image and pretended it didn't happen. But instead, I saved it to my own phone. I stared at it again. Then again. I waited for my breath to slow. At 10:03, Rachel messaged me from her real number. Everything's fine at your place. Don't worry about a thing, hope you're holding up okay. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the Notes app and typed a single sentence. There's the proof you said I'd never find. Then I sat there, phone in lap, hands still, mind racing. How long had I known something was off? How many times had I swallowed doubt with a smile? How many moments had I brushed away instinct because I didn't want to be the paranoid wife? I stared at the photo again. She looked so at home. And that, more than the robe, more than the wine, is what shattered me. Some betrayals aren't loud. They don't arrive with yelling or door slams. They arrive like this, dressed in softness, hiding behind a smile, delivered to the wrong number. If you've ever seen something you weren't supposed to, and knew it changed everything, you understand this moment. Feel free to share this story. Sometimes, it's the smallest mistake that finally tells the truth. I arrived home just after noon. The hospital parking lot already felt like another country. My dad was in recovery, alert and steady. I told him I needed a day to rest. That was partially true. The rest of it, the part where I couldn't breathe without seeing that photo again, I kept to myself. The house was quiet. Still. The kind of stillness that feels posed. I stood in the doorway longer than usual. The lights were off. The curtains drawn. Everything was clean, cleaner than I remembered leaving it. The couch pillows were arranged too perfectly. My favorite mug sat on the table, still slightly damp. And there, folded on the edge of the laundry basket in the hallway, was my robe. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. I walked over to it slowly. Touched it. Still faintly warm. It had just been worn. In the kitchen, a wine bottle was half finished on the counter. 2 glasses, one rinsed and drying, the other with faint lip prints. The scent of lavender cleaner lingered in the air, and underneath it, something else. Something floral and familiar. Rachel's perfume. I opened the fridge. Leftovers from a dinner I hadn't made. My cat's food bowl was full, but not with the brand I usually bought. Her touch was everywhere. But it wasn't a guest's presence, it was ownership. As if, in my absence, she had made this place hers. My husband wasn't home. I didn't ask where he was. Instead, I took out my phone and opened the image again. Her. My couch. My robe. My glass. The robe wasn't just clothing. It was context. It was intention. She'd worn it knowing it was mine. Worn it in a way that said, I belong here too. That wasn't an accident. It was a message, maybe to him. Maybe to me. I printed the photo on my home printer. Black and white. Blurred a little, but the shape of it, her posture, the robe, the background, was still unmistakable. I folded it and placed it in an envelope. Then I wrote 2 names on the front, his and hers. That night, I waited. He came home around 7. Set his keys on the table, asked how Dad was. His voice was neutral. Soft, even. He's doing better, I said. I needed a night here. He nodded. Opened the fridge. Poured wine. Didn't ask why I looked tired. Didn't notice the envelope. Or maybe he did, and just hoped I wouldn't bring it up. Did Rachel stop by again? I asked. He glanced at me. Yeah, just to check on Whiskers. You know how she is. I nodded. Then I slid the envelope across the table. He didn't open it right away. He stared at it like it might explode. Eventually, he unfolded it. Stared at the photo. And then he said it. It's not what you think. I actually laughed. Just once, sharply. Then tell me, I said. Tell me what this is. He didn't answer. I stood. I'm not staying tonight, I said. I came to see if I was crazy. I'm not. He followed me to the door. Wait. Can we talk? You had a week to talk. She had years. I had 5 seconds of a photo to figure out the truth. He looked small. Quiet. I'm not leaving because you cheated, I added. I'm leaving because you didn't even bother to lie well. I walked out. No yelling. No scene. Just a door closing behind me and a truth I no longer had to chase. Some people break your heart quietly, so you leave the same way. And if you've ever walked back into your own home and realized it no longer feels like yours, you know exactly what that silence sounds like. I set the table for 3. Not because I wanted a pleasant evening. Not because I expected civility. But because I needed them to sit, to look at each other, and to see what I had seen, how easy it was for both of them to smile through betrayal. There were candles. Wine glasses. A meal delivered from the restaurant we used to love, the one she recommended on our first anniversary. Everything was arranged perfectly. But the food wasn't the point. The theater was. They arrived separately. Rachel came first, 5 minutes early. She wore a soft beige sweater, hair tied back, face perfectly calm. "Wow," she said, stepping inside. "Smells amazing in here. How's your dad?" I didn't answer. Just gestured to the table. She hesitated, then sat. 10 minutes later, he arrived. Casual. A little nervous. He kissed my cheek, out of habit, I think, and I let him. I wanted to see if he'd flinch. He didn't. We sat. We poured wine. I waited. No one touched the food. Rachel complimented the flowers. He asked how I'd been sleeping. I placed the envelope on the table. Their faces changed in sync, not shock, not guilt. Anticipation. Like they both knew exactly what was inside and were silently hoping I'd never open it. I slid it toward the center. "Go ahead." He reached for it first. Opened the flap. Pulled out the photo. He didn't speak. Just held it. I looked at her. "That's my robe." She blinked, then looked down. "I thought you were okay with me staying over." "I wasn't," I said. "Because I didn't know you were staying." Her mouth opened. Closed. He cleared his throat. "It wasn't serious. It just happened." I laughed. Soft. Short. Sharp. "It just happened" is what people say when they lose control. You didn't lose control. You made a series of quiet decisions and hoped I'd never notice. No one moved. I stood, walked to the cabinet, and pulled out a second envelope. This one thicker. Inside was a copy of the listing agreement. The house was going up for sale. I'd already signed. I placed it beside the photo. "I'm moving," I said. "With my dad. I won't be here when the sale closes. You'll both have time to sort your mess out." He looked up. "You don't have to do this." "I do," I said. "Because I'd rather rebuild from nothing than keep living where my peace has been erased." Rachel finally spoke. "You know, I never meant." "You meant everything," I said. "You meant to be close. You meant to stay quiet. You meant to wear what wasn't yours." I took my glass, emptied it into the sink, and turned around one last time. "This dinner wasn't for closure," I said. "It was a mirror. I wanted you both to see yourselves clearly. No more noise. No more lies." I walked out the door. No one followed. Outside, the air was cold. Clean. My car was packed. My father was waiting. I didn't look back. Because sometimes the best thing you can serve at a table is the truth, and then walk away before anyone asks for seconds. And if you've ever set a place for someone who is secretly taking from your plate, you know what it means to finally eat alone and feel full. I gave myself 12 days to pack. Not because I needed that long, but because I wanted the process to be intentional. No rushing. No chaos. I didn't want to throw everything in boxes the way they had thrown away my trust. I wanted to look at every item and ask, does this come with me, or does it stay behind with them? Most of it stayed. The robe went first. I folded it once and dropped it in a trash bag, along with the wine glass, the throw pillow Rachel always used, and the cutting board with the faint burn mark he once blamed on me but probably caused himself. What surprised me was how much of my life no longer felt like mine. Half the bookshelf, his. Most of the dishes, wedding gifts we never used. Photos on the wall, curated smiles that now made my stomach turn. The rug under the couch, hers, technically. She'd gifted it after that wine night years ago. Now I wondered what else she left behind. My dad came over midweek to help carry boxes. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. The silence between us had become understanding. When we paused for coffee, he looked at the hallway and said quietly, "I always thought this place felt cold. Now I know why." I nodded, grateful he didn't make it harder. One afternoon, I opened the drawer of the side table in our bedroom. Inside, folded neatly, was a note I had written him 3 years earlier. A list of promises. Forgivenesses. A vow to always be on your side, even when it's hard. I didn't cry. I just folded it again and lit a match. The fire burned fast. Later that night, I drafted my final email to the realtor. Closing date confirmed. All documents signed. My half packed. His half? I didn't care. He texted once. "Are you really going through with this?" I replied. I already did. I didn't hear from Rachel. Which was the clearest answer she could have given me. On the last morning in that house, I stood in the doorway and took one last look. The living room was bare. The walls echoed. Even the light felt different. Not warmer. Just honest. I walked through each room and whispered goodbye, not because I needed closure, but because the house deserved it. It had been mine once. Before they took what was sacred and made it casual. Before I stopped recognizing myself in it. I left a single envelope on the kitchen counter with 2 lines inside. "You were careless with something that wasn't yours." I'm not. Then I walked out and closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. Sometimes, leaving doesn't need a grand exit. Just a clear one. And if you've ever packed your life into boxes and realized you weren't taking grief with you, only clarity, you know exactly what kind of freedom that is. The house in Oregon wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, a narrow porch, and a creaky floorboard in the hallway. But it was mine. Mine and my dad's. And that was enough. We arrived late in the afternoon, our car loaded with the last few boxes. The sky was gray, but the air felt cleaner. Quieter. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and for the first time in months, didn't feel like I had to brace for something. There was no scent of her perfume. No hidden wine glass. No memory carved into the walls. Just space. Empty, peaceful, mine. We didn't unpack everything the first night. I made tea. My dad sat on a folding chair by the window and looked out at the trees. "This'll do," he said. And that was all I needed. I furnished the house slowly. Chose pieces that felt real, not just matched. Mismatched mugs. Soft blankets. Books I actually loved. I even bought a new robe, thick, navy blue, no flowers. Not because I needed one, but because I wanted to choose something no one else had touched. I wrote more. I reopened my blog. Not to talk about them, but about the silence that follows. The part no one tells you about. How your body keeps moving while your heart recalibrates. How grief for what was gets replaced by something quieter, relief. People started reading. Writing back. Sharing their own wrong message moments, their small betrayals, their private victories. I realized we all carry these little fragments, and that maybe, by holding them up to the light, they lose some of their power. One day, while organizing the last box of books, I found a photo. It was of me, from 5 years ago, sitting on the old couch in the old house, smiling at someone just outside the frame. I looked different. Softer. Trusting. I stared at it for a while, then tore it in half. That version of me didn't know what was coming. But this version? She knows exactly where she stands. I planted flowers by the porch. Started going on long walks. Cooked again. I watched my dad settle in too, less fragile now, more himself. We talked late into the night sometimes, about nothing and everything. He asked once, "Do you miss them?" I didn't even have to think. No. Because here's the thing, what I missed wasn't them. It was who I thought they were. And once that illusion is gone, what's left isn't heartbreak. It's clarity. Months passed. I never heard from her. Not a word. And him? He sent one last email. Short. Apologetic. I didn't know how to stop, he wrote. I didn't reply. I already had everything I needed. A quiet porch. A house that never lied to me. A robe that was mine and only mine. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like starting over without ever saying goodbye. If this story has found you at a moment when you're still holding on, know that letting go doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be true. And if it was true for you, share it. Because someone else might be standing in that same hallway, holding their own envelope, waiting to remember what they deserve.